So Pyroar is a Pokemon that's optimized extremely awkwardly for competitive. It's clearly designed to be a special attacker with its nice base 109 special and solid 106 speed. But for some reason they gave it the ability Moxie, which boosts its physical attack after each knockout. And it's never really ran with that because, 68 attack. But I'm gonna do something super interesting with this bad boy that takes advantage of that. So we're gonna start off by potentially getting off a Trailblaze to boost our speed, and then it's time to click Workup. This is able to give us a +1 boost to both attack and special attack, and this should allow us to pull off some crazy mixed attacker nonsense. So there's an interesting mechanic that comes with the move Terra Blast that not that many people are aware of. First of all, until you actually use Terastallization, Terra Blast is always going to be a special attack. Since Pyroar is part normal type, we can actually use this as a decent special stab option, or we can bust out Terra Electric to have a strong coverage option while still being a special attack. But then as we can nuke something with a stab overheat that comes with a special attack drop, or especially after we get a Moxie boost, Terra Blast dynamically changes which side it does damage from. Pyroar switches over to being a strong physical attacker instead, and now Terra Blast Electric hits on the physical side as we continue to snowball our attack with Moxie. We could also just use Wild Charge for guaranteed electric coverage without using up the Terra, but today we're going to confuse some people with the side-switching Pyroar that nobody's going to know what the hell's going on with. I feel like things slip through the cracks a lot when Game Freak is, designing Pokemon. And Pyroar is one of the best examples of that, because why give it Moxie if it's never really supposed to use its physical attack? But as it turns out, I guess, it kinda can, and, that's what I'm here for. If this sounds like a fun time to you, consider hitting that subscribe button. It's free, it only takes you a second, I promise you won't regret it. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into the match. Alright, so my opponent is gonna go ahead and lead off with the Hydreigon. I did not expect that, as I've got a horse named Dale, and I'm not a great matchup. Look, being anything that can hit you on the special side is not really ideal with Mudsdale, but I'm just going to set up my Stealth Rock anyway. I figured maybe this thing's Choice Scarf might just, get some damage. I can at least take one attack, but it turns out they go for a Nasty Plot, and that makes the puke green three-headed tripod dragon over there a little bit more scary. And now at this point, nothing wants to switch into this, of course, but I know that, maybe I can live with one Nasty Plot and go for a Body Press, at least do about half to the thing and make my life a little bit easier. Now, they decide to go for a second Nasty Plot. Buddy's getting greedy over there, and that also makes it a whole lot more scary. Now, also Body Press doesn't do much. Without any stamina boost, you're not able to do as much as I would hope with the Mudsdale. But now as I'm looking at it, especially now with, double, this thing's thoughts are nasty as hell. Nothing wants to switch into this thing. And I gotta give Mudsdale the old Sackaroo. So, here's the good thing at least. I lose my defensive wall in Mudsdale, but I know that this thing is obviously not being Choice Scarfed. I can go into something that I have that's faster, and that's gonna be the Cyclizar. Now, also what's great is that since I got considerable chip, at least with that Body Press, this thing will be in range for a Dragon Claw to kill. And since it doesn't have any speed boost, I am literally a motorcycle lizard. I'm fast as hell, boy. So I decide, here's the thing. It might go for a defensive Terra here, and in order to kind of scout that out, I decide to click the Substitute just to see if they're going to commit the Terra early. It turns out they don't. They just go for the Dark Pulse. That is fine, as the Substitute's pretty free on this thing. The reason why Baikel is able to kind of go for those freely is because I have Regenerate. I can switch out and get that back in terms of health and be pretty good. So now I'm just going to go right for the Dragon Claw. If they didn't Terra then, they're not going to Terra now. And they stay in, and the Dragon Claw is able to take care of it. So Cyclizar out here doing some stuff, and he at least stops us from being swept by a turn 1 setup. So that feels pretty good. I take a little bit of Life Orb chip, and now they can go into whatever they like. Now, as they bring in the crazy-ass fighting Pikachu clone, here's the thing. Cyclizar lives in fear of the next terrorist attack orchestrated by a fighting type that has access to Mach Punch. So I, not wanting to be Mach Punched to death, decide I'm going to switch right into the Bramblegast. I know that, either this thing goes for a Revival Blessing and just tries to get the Hydreigon back, or a Mach Punch is coming and I'm going to be a dead-ass lizard. So I bring in the Tumbleweed, who's happy to see a Mach Punch, but instead they go for Volt Switch, which is great for them. Going to give them a bit of momentum in terms of now being able to bring in a matchup accordingly. And that's not super ideal, but mostly fine. So it turns out now they go into the Chester Cheeto looking ass And now I'm intimidated, and I'm a flammable thing looking in the face of a fire cat. So I decide, obviously, I have to swap out here, and I don't have a whole lot to do to Incineroar, but what I do have is a Heatran, looking like lasagna coming out here. Turns out they go for knockoff, which does get rid of my Assault Vest. This is kind of a more bulky Heatran that's just here to dish out really good damage and just live things that people don't expect it to live, but without my Assault Vest, not going to help out too well, but I can at least now outspeed. I can go for an Earth Power, and I really just need damage on the thing. Now, it turns out they have the Drain Punch, which I do take nicely. I'm max HP at least, and while they do get some health back, it is unfortunate because it's not in range now for an Earth Power to kill. But again, my team doesn't have much to deal with Incineroar, especially with Mudsdale being gone, so I'm kind of forced to go for another Earth Power. I do at least get really good damage on the thing. As they finish me with another Drain Punch, that is fine. He's relatively healthy over there, but I did enough to the point where, you know, Incineroar, this thing shouldn't be that much of a problem. So down goes the Heatran, which is unfortunate. The thing looked pretty nice on the matchup, but really just didn't have a whole lot to do there. But now here's the thing. It is Pyroar time, baby, and we're going to see if we can get Buddy going. So this is a strategy that requires a little bit of help. Now, first of all, obviously knowing that they have the Drain Punch, I'm thinking they just stay in and go for that. So I decide I'm going to pull out the Terra Electric early. I don't want to be hit with a super effective fighting attack, and in order to deal with that, I'm going to put the Light Bulb on my head. Now, instead, they end up swapping into Toxapex, and Toxapex is a very interesting one in terms of this Pyroar matchup, because, first of all, it's actually kind of nice. Depending on how this thing is built, if it's more physically defensive, I can hit it on the special side early. As I go for the Terra Electric, I'm going to go right for the Trailblaze here. First step is to be able to, you know, outspeed things, and I need the Trailblaze to guarantee that I'm faster than everything, but it does a little bit of chip to the guy, and also Toxapex is kind of an ideal answer to, especially being Terra, to try to set up in front of. Now, also, because they go for Baneful Bunker, trying to bait me into touching them once more to get me poisoned, I'm like, oh no, I'm over here working. Some people are working out, I'm working up, baby. That is the direction this Pyroar is looking at, and that gives me a +1 to both of my offenses. So as it stands, Pyroar is currently still gonna be a special attacker. Even if I click a Terra Blast, I was just gonna hit it on the special side, and I figure that's probably more optimal for the Toxapex matchup. But also, as I'm sitting here, I'm like, you know what? We're gonna get a little bit greedy with it. I can go for another workup, and that's just because, you know, surely this thing doesn't have anything that it can really touch me with. As they go for a Poison Jab, little stab damage, doesn't do anything, but the reason why they Poison Jab is because of that damn poison. I do get poisoned, and while it's not the end of the world, it's pretty annoying, because while I do have my leftovers to offset the damage a little bit, you know, the continual chip from that is gonna be annoying. So here's the thing. I'm sitting at both my offenses are doubled at this point, and this Pyroar is cooking up a little something here. But here's the thing. I realize they probably don't want to stay in here fearing a Terra Blast. Now I decide, if they want to switch, since I already have my one Trailblaze, I'm kind of free to go for another workup. And that's the type of activities that Toxapex lets you get into. Being able to go for 3 of them is really nice, because as I expect something like the Incineroar to switch in, does get an Intimidate, so that knocks my physical attack down now to +2. My special attack sitting at +3. You really got to kind of stay on top of, you know, what this Pyroar is working with in terms of stat boost to know, you know, what side to be hitting things on. So I take some poison damage after some leftovers, but now I'm looking nice. If this thing has fake out, it'd be a little bit annoying. Turns out it does not. I can go for the Terra Blast, bop him on the special side, and that is going to be a dead-ass Incineroar. We get the critical hit, which is absolutely overkill, but at this point, Pyroar has never been more ready, and we now, after the Moxie boost, brings both of our offenses to +3. So, alright, with that in mind, we are still going to be hitting things on the special side, depending on if we don't click Trailblaze, but now we get to see what they want to swap into here. Now, there's a few things that I'm worried about, being priority in the form of Accelerock from the Lycanroc, but that should only do like 30 to 40% max. And also, Mach Punch from this little bastard. So as they go into the Palmot here, I'm thinking one thing. I can go for an Overheat. I could be able to live one Mach Punch. It turns out they do not click the Mach Punch, and an Overheat is absolutely going to put that thing on a barbecue. So that is going to be a dead Palmot. Luckily, they do not Mach Punch, because now, with -2 to our special attack, that brings us to +1 on our special, and now with another Moxie boost, just like that, Pyroar now sitting at +4 physical attack is gonna be a physical attacker. So, the good news is also, even after that one Overheat, we're still at +1 special, so Overheats still, you know, they have potential to do a lot of damage, and as they end up going into Golden Go now, the String Cheese guy comes in, he's probably like, you know, that's fine, they overheated, but look at this. I'm still at +1 special attack, so you thought I was a physical attacker? Nope, I can go for another Overheat with a super effective hit, even with no special attack investment. is easily going to be able to take care of the thing. The absolute nuke that is Overheat is going to straight up murder the Cinnamon the Winamon-ass guy. And now things get extra interesting because I get another Moxie boost. We're over here just continually stacking Moxies. Our special attack is now at -1, but that's fine. I eat some leftovers, I take a little bit more poison damage, and now I'm sitting at 69 HP. Nice. It always seems like I get down to 60. I don't know how the hell that always happens, but at about half, I'm still in not the safest position here because as they end up bringing in Lycanroc, I'm not exactly sure on damage here. Depending on how this thing is built, I could potentially die to an Accelerock, and that would be bad. I really want to hit a physical Terra Blast. It'll absolutely nuke everything, but they do go for the priority, and it takes care of the Pyroar, which is wildly unfortunate. So they played their time with the priority attack long enough to where the poison knocked me to the easy range, and down goes the Pyroar. Since it's life, it actually reveals its life orb, and that's the reason why it was able to get that damage. And now, that's going to make things a whole lot more interesting. So, first of all, I've got 3 Mons left. Now, I'm thinking this. I can go into the Brambleghast. Their only Mon in the back is going to be Toxapex. Now, here's the situation. I can live any attack from the thing, and any of my attacks kill. So as they go for a crunch, I have my berry to be able to weaken the damage. Luckily, I'm able to live. And the reason why I go for Poltergeist over the Power Whip is because it's more accurate. It's literally 5 more accurate. And I'm like, okay, surely all I got to do is connect here. Poltergeist goes off, and it misses. So I get the wildly unfortunate miss there, and that is going to make things way more interesting. Knowing that Toxapex is back there, I was really hoping on being able to get, you know, a Power Whip on the thing and being in a spot where I could at least maybe even Strength Sap it. And all I have to do is get past that Toxapex. But now, with Brambleghast gone, that is going to really throw a wrench in the plans here. Now, this thing is taking some damage from the Life Orb, which turns out is pretty nice for me, because now as Cyclozar is going to be faster, the only thing they can really click would be Accelerock. I can then go for an Iron Head, and it should be an easy kill, and then we got ourselves a good old standoff against a Toxapex. So they do go Accelerock. That does a huge amount of damage because of that Life Orb, but luckily we're able to live, and Iron Head cannot miss. So, you know, sometimes you got to put the damn steel on your forehead to be able to kill the damn thing. So down goes the Lycanroc. Now we have a 2v1 situation that is honestly not safe, because that thing, Toxapex, is a monster that never dies, and I've got myself 2 physical attackers. So as they go Toxapex here, playing a little peekaboo over there, it is pretty damn healthy. Now here's the thing, I'm fully expecting a Baneful Bunker. We've seen that they have it. I decided to predict that and go for the Shift Gear. I know that I'm not going to do much with a Dragon Claw, but I figure, you know, a Shift Gear here would put me in such a good spot to predict a Baneful Bunker, and they do not click it. They instead just go right for the Poison Jab that kills the Cyclozar, and that's a big misplay on my end. In hindsight, should have surely just gone for the damage there. The guaranteed chip damage would have been far better option, just not even worrying about the Baneful Bunker, but I thought I would get a little cheeky there and predict it, and it didn't work out for me. So now, in a game that I thought that Pyro was going to fully sweep in, we've gotten ourselves in a position where now it's fully Braviary versus Toxapex. So, first of all, I go for the agility. I'm like, surely they're going to Baneful Bunker this time, and thank God they do. I get the prediction correct, and I go for the agility. Now, the main reason why I was also super worried about that Baneful Bunker that time is because my biggest way to touch this thing would be with Sky Attack. And if I Sky Attack on a turn where they Baneful Bunker, that is really bad for me. So now, I'm relatively safe. Knowing that they're not going to really bunker twice, I can go for my Sky Attack, and it should do like 40 to 50% depending on how this thing is trained, and I am scared. So they also are now going to go for the Terra Water. Now that's going to not really affect my damage at all, and as I go for the Sky Attack, I put the Crazy Wings on. This is one of the most badass attacks ever. I can pull out the Power Herb to allow me to attack immediately, and we need big damage. Now, it does do about half, and here's where things get interesting. They decide to go for the Liquidation. They wanted the extra stab boost from the Terra, and it does half with a critical hit, which is honestly feels pretty good for me. Now, what also feels insanely good is that since they were running Black Sludge and they Terra'd out of their Poison type, that just straight up hurts them every turn. So that is amazing, because now as they go for another Baneful Bunker, I can just freely click Acrobatics here. I'm in a spot where knowing that was a crit from that, I should be relatively safe. So, you know, I touched the Baneful Bunker, which does give me the poison, but now looking at it, since they Baneful, they have to take another turn of the Black Sludge, and then seeing how much damage the Sky Attack did, I now have a full power Acrobatics, and I'm feeling pretty confident that it should be able to knock it out at this range. And holy hell, Braviary coming in, hopefully a little clutch here. We go for the Acrobatics. That does end up killing the crazy-ass Sea Urchin. And that was a wild ending. Let that be a lesson. If you're running, there's no reason anymore to run Black Sludge. You always have to go leftovers, because if you Terra out of poison, you're going to have a bad time. So that is going to be the end of the match. I thought that was an insanely crazy one, and it came right down to it at the ending. But also, that's now going to bring us into game number 2, because look, the mixed Pyroar is required to do some more work, and we're definitely going to make that happen. So look, if you've stuck around this far into the video, go ahead and hit that like button for me. It really does help out the channel. It is much appreciated, and let's go ahead and jump into it. Alright, so this time my opponent is going to lead off with the Paladin. Now, of course, this little cute bastard is here to, you know, most of the time either switch out or just flip turn out of here and then come back as a damn legendary for the remainder of the game. So, as I lead off with a Deoxys, it turns out they are just going to flip turn, get a little bit of chip, head out, and then come back as a damn superhero, and that thing is a problem. So, they also now are going to go right into Glimmora. Now, Deoxys is, of course, here to set up some Stealth Rock. I'm now in potential danger of that just being mortal spinned away. But for the most part, I feel like Deoxys still doesn't have a bad matchup here. You know, I don't know what it is about this Deoxys, but people are just not afraid to send in their poison types against it. Why are you not afraid of me just clicking Psychic? I don't know. I don't have it, of course, but if I did, this thing would be in a bad spot. Now, it turns out they do just go for the Mortal Spin. Gets rid of the hazards, but also is going to paralyze me right to the lemon head. And I decide to go for the knockoff. Now, that's just going to at least potentially break a Focus Sash. I'm not worried about the Toxic Debris. That's just because, of course, you know, I have the poison type in the form of Venusaur on the squad this time, and I can soak him up anytime I need to. So, again, I don't know. I'm really thinking that this thing probably ends up swapping out here. Glimmora doesn't really have much business staying in, again, on a Psychic type, especially with its Sash broken. So I'm thinking I'm going to go for the U-turn, catch myself a little matchup. Nope, this thing is literally not afraid of death. They decide to go for the Stealth Rock, and now there's just some hazards all over the place. So as I go for the U-turn, bad thing is, of course, you know, at least I get a critical hit, but it doesn't matter. He's going to pop this thing like a damn pinata once again, sets up another layer of the Toxic Spikes, and now they've got double T-Spikes. So I'm like, you know what, I should probably address this immediately, and one way I can do that is to go Venusaur. So if you're familiar with this squad, I'm working with some Sun Shenanigans and a physical Venusaur. Now, I come in, first of all, we soak him up, take a little bit of Stealth Rock chip, that's fine. I can now really pretty much just threaten it with an Earthquake. I'm thinking I can't really set this up. Obviously my Sun is not up, but I kind of just go into here because even just without the Sun, I naturally kind of destroy the thing with an Earthquake. It turns out they Spiky Shield to scout what I'm going to do, so a Swords Dance would have been kind of cool, but at this time, I'm thinking surely they're going to swap here. Now, I'm thinking they probably go Drifblim. If they see the Earthquake, I decide to predict the Drifblim to come in, and it does. But he's got Cool Whip on its head, he's got a little dollop on him, having a fun time. He's also just staring down menacingly, ready to probably, you know, steal some children. Instead, they're met with basically the Pokemon equivalent of Chris Hansen. I say, you know what, why don't you go ahead and take a seat, Mr. Drifblim? I've got myself an Alolan Persian here. Now, it turns out they get a Flame Orb activation, and that's going to reveal it's going to be a Flare Boost Drifblim, which is kind of sick. If you're unfamiliar with what that ability even is, go ahead and search my channel. I have a Flare Boost Drifblim video. Regardless, I'm going to go for a Taunt, because look, nothing good happens when there's a Drifblim around. It's always going to Will-O-Wisp, it's going to Strength Sap. There's going to be some nonsense it's going to be up to. So the Taunt is there to stop that, but instead, they swap right into the Fezandipity. Now, the Fez is a little bit a problem. The Parting Shot is really nice on the swap here because obviously, you know, I do not want to stay in here taking Moonblasts. But now as I'm looking at this thing, I got to figure out kind of what my best bet is. The bad situation is that I don't have my Sun up quite yet. But also, Deoxys is another fella that can kind of threaten this thing. They probably realize at this point I don't have the Psychic coverage, but I can take Moonblast, any special attacks all day. I'm fully specially defensive on the thing, and a Moonblast, you know, does nothing, which is great. So my little pixie ass is poisoned over here, you know, taking a little bite of an apple, but also taking some damage. But the thing is this, Deoxys not only can set back up my rocks, but I'm kind of putting this thing in a leverage situation where I can try to get some type of value in terms of momentum out of it. That's what this thing does best. So it turns out they go for the U-turn. They do not want to stay in here, and you're never going to guess what they're going to go right back into the damn Glimmora. This Glimmora is the least afraid poison type of all time. So as I go for the Stealth Rock, they do just figure that that's what I'm going to do so they can Mortal Spin him back out of there. And Buddy really does not want the rocks off on his side. So I'm wondering what they've got cooked in the back. You know, the reason why they don't want those Stealth Rocks up. But regardless, I found myself in a little bit of a pickle here once again with this damn Glimmora. I don't really want to immediately touch it and then just, you know, get more Toxic Spikes, have to go Venusaur. And then I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to straight up just off myself. As they go for a Mortal Spin, I know I can live it. They can get rid of the Stealth Rock. That's fine. Deoxys did not get the hazards to stay up, but I can now go for a Memento, which is basically just there as a spot to, you know, dampen offenses enough to where I can get something on my squad in terms of sweepers to be able to be in a spot to get something going. So Glimmora now is far less scary, and also, guess what time it is, baby? It's Pyroar time. I am still in danger of either rock or ground coverage, and one of the good things about this spot is that I'm also thinking maybe Glimmora probably doesn't want to stay in here after the Memento, so I'm going to decide to go for the workup. Now check it out, turns out they clicked the spiky shield, and that is, we love a free workup. This thing definitely needs all the workups it can get, because now at +1 attack and special attack, we are in a spot where as soon as I get a Trailblaze, we'll be faster than everything, and Pyroar about to go off. So here's the thing, messing around with a little bit of the moveset on the guy. This time I'm working with Wild Charge, just to hit on the physical side guaranteed. But now I'm going to go right for the Trailblaze. Also, Pyroar just vanishes. I don't know what the hell happened there. Pyroar just too big, just moves out of the way. You can't even see him. Now as they go right into the Politoed. This little slimy bastard is a little bit of a problem. Gets up the rain, which dampens my potential overheats, but now as I get the Trailblaze off, does do some pretty considerable damage. Again, I'm just invisibly eating some leftovers here. I don't know what the hell. I've never actually seen this glitch happen before. Pyroar just goes away for some reason. But I come back, and as I go now for the Wild Charge, that is a dead-ass Politoed. So you absolutely love to see it. We take care of their Rain Setter, which is really good on a team that I require Sun with, or at least the Sun helps me out a lot. But I take some recoil from that, and now as I get my Moxie boost, we're in a position where now I'm a physical attacker, baby. At least I have stronger physical attack here, and we just want to try to stack as many Moxies as possible. And also, look, now as they go Palafin, there's one thing that obviously, you know, twists my nuts in a knot here, is if they have the rain boosted Jet Punch, if their Choice Banded kills me, but I am forced to now have to go for that Terra Electric. I'm thinking if it's not Choice Banded with the Terra Electric here, I should be able to live a Jet Punch even in the rain. So I go ahead and put the light bulb on my head, and we obviously are afraid of this superhero-ass Dolphin. And also I'm faster because of the Trailblaze, but check it out. They do not click the Jet Punch. I don't know if Buddy didn't have it, if they predict the switch or what, but with the boost from the last Moxie and the Terra, a Wild Charge is going to be able to kill the Palafin, which is incredibly satisfying. So, you know, down goes one of the biggest threats in the game. We again get another Moxie boost, and now we're in a spot where Pyroar is kind of, honestly, not afraid of damn anything. We can sweep basically whatever they have left. As they go into Glimmora here, I'm like, you know what, you are not, I mean, you can, like, Spiky Shield if you want, but the electric line is not afraid of a damn thing. I can go for another Wild Charge. They decide to head out, which is wildly unfortunate. They, you know, they realize that this Pyroar is, after Speed Boost, just kills everything they had left. So, you know, we saved their last mons from certain death. And that's going to do it for that one. But look, I have one more bonus match for you, because my favorite thing about this set is the Terra Blast variant, and I want to see if we can get it to go one more time. And, you know, sometimes I like to throw some extras out there. Look, if you've still stuck around, you are my favorite, and I appreciate you greatly. So with that, let's jump into the game. All right, so this time my opponent is going to lead off with a Gardevoir. Now, as I have the Lycanroc here, I'm, you know, a rock doggo that's here to set up Stealth Rock, but I can't really freely do that. They have, in the back, they've got a Haydunn, and I know they're going to try to Magic Bounce some bullshit back. So expecting them to switch into that thing, I instead decide to go for the Accelerock. Turns out they stay in, and, you know, I could have gotten my rocks up, and as they go for a Psychic, I do at least live it. Now, I'm guaranteed to live, as I'm Focus Sash, and I'm also with Endeavor here to try to be knocked down to 1. Endeavor and then kill stuff with an Accelerock. Using the Fear Strat on a freaking Lycanroc is crazy, but the Endeavor there was still my best play, because it does do some really good damage to the thing. Gets the Gardevoir down into a point where I can easily take care of the guy. Now, at this point, with the kind of revenge switch in, I figure, why not just get the Sun up early? You know, the bad news is they have weather of their own. With an Alolan Ninetales in the back, I know that it's not going to freely stick around, but also I'm thinking, if I'm them, I'd probably switch into Milotic here. And expecting that, I decide to go for the Solar Beam, and check it out, they do go right into Milotic. They're like, hey, what a beautiful day to be alive out here. And then boom, just immediate Solar Beam right between the eyebrows. And that, you know, is probably not a good way to wake up in the morning. But it does do considerable chip, and that's really nice. Well, I mean, I always say chip on shit that's not chip. Like, I mean, anytime I don't get a kill and I put stuff in range for it to be killed later, I call it chip. I don't know why, but that's a dead Milotic. We get good damage. And at this point, as another Solar Beam is able to knock it out, I'm fully expecting them to go into the Ninetales. I know that they can set up the Sun, or they can get rid of my Sun with their weather, and the snow is going to stop my Solar Beam from doing stuff. And as I expect the switch, I decide to go into Dedenne instead, but they just stay in and click Recover. So you know, I guess that's still kind of fine because Dedenne in this matchup is like, hey, this is actually a situation where I can do some stuff. So I decided to go for the Charge Beam. Now, this Dedenne, my wife forced me to put this Dedenne on the team. She said Dedenne or divorce, and I'm really trying to get this damn thing to do some stuff. So one way it can do things is if I can get some special attack boost from a Charge Beam. As they swap into a Haydunn, Charge Beam misses, which is really cool because it's 10% chance for that to miss. And I'm like, that's fine, I can go for it again. It misses again. What the hell? 2 10% chance misses in a row? Is exactly why all my homies hate Dedenne. Now, as they go for the damage here, it knocks me down into my Pyroar range. So now I get a special attack boost the old-fashioned way. That also activates Cheek Pouch, which is effectively useless. Getting a third of your health back on this thing when it dies from every attack doesn't do a damn thing. But at least now I figure, fuck it, I'm gonna go for the Thunderbolt, just get some value out of this damn thing. A guy that should have been at +3 special attack instead doesn't even get the kill on the Haydunn. So, you know, as I go down to Dedenne, it doesn't do much. And, you know, that thing, look, the thing sucks, dude. Don't tell my wife. She's probably not going to watch this far into a video anyway. She'll never hear that. But regardless, that thing goes down. But look, here's one of the bright things about the situation. The sun is shining, and Pyroar has a matchup where I can get some workups off, dude. I'm feeling pretty confident that I can take an attack from the thing. I can freely get up a workup, and that's all Buddy needs sometimes. So we go for that workup, get that +1 to each, and it turns out they click the Life Dew. They're gonna get some health back from that, but that really doesn't even make a damn difference. And I'm like, the Life Dew, I kind of forget that move even exists. But hey, that's pretty great. That means we get a free boost on the Pyroar, and sometimes that's the open door that we needed. So now, knowing that I can still live one attack from the thing, I'm pretty free to click Trailblaze here. Also, considering that maybe Milotic switches in here, Trailblaze might not be too bad of an idea. And it turns out they do go into the Milotic. So this thing is far healthier than the last time we saw her because of that recover. But the Trailblaze comes through, and that does pretty damn good damage. So that's now going to give me my speed boost. And at this point, we're at +1 on both of our offenses here. So I'm thinking this, since the sun is up, I should be able to live one Scald. I'm really not worried about it. I can definitely live it. And then, as I don't want to go for an overheat yet to drop my specials, I decide to click the Terra Blast. Just raw dog a Terra Blast, and guess what? We get the crit, which I'm not entirely sure if it mattered, but hey, the stab, normal type, special attack, freaking Terra Blast is able to knock out the Milotic, which is insanely satisfying. So now as we get the Moxie boost, we are now in physical attacker territory. We're at +2 to our physical attack, and as they bring in Primarina, that's kind of one of the reasons why I did not want to go for the early Terra Blast against the Milotic with the actual electric, is because I wanted to bait this thing in. Make the Primarina think that it's safe. That's step number 1. And then step number 2, be able to hit Homegirl on the physical side now with the Terra. The same attack is now going to do entirely a different thing. I can go for that Terra Electric, fire off now a physical Terra Blast since my physical attack is now stronger. And guess what? That is going to be a dead-ass Primarina. That's one of the most satisfying things about this set, is that Primarina is built to take special attacks but does not deal with physical attacks. So now being on the physical side is so sick. And as I get another Moxie, we're able to just snowball out of control. We are now just insanely strong on the physical side, even with our base 68 physical attack. And as they go into the Alolan Ninetales, this thing, of course, does get its 50% defensive boost with that snow being up. But I figure that's fine. With that, I can just click Overheat. My special attack is still really strong, and it's super effective, and it should kill. And as they end up busting out the Terra, they probably want to try to get as much damage as possible, you know, considering maybe they can take an attack, and they go for a Stellar Terra. Now I am faster because of that Trailblaze. I can then fire off the Overheat, hit it on the special side this time. That is going to be a dead Alolan Ninetales, which is sick as hell. Thank God it was Stellar Terra there, but you know, that's going to be able to take care of it. Down goes the Ninetales. Now that drops our special attack 2 stages, but then gives me just another Moxie boost, and Pyroar is schmoovin' like never before. So this set is honestly really satisfying, and it's really fun to try to get it to pay off. So now as they go Sylveon, this thing is, you know, another guy that can deal with special attacks, especially after my Overheat drops. But what it cannot deal with is my crazy stacked physical attack with a now physical Terra Blast. So I fire off the Stab Electric attack, and that is going to be able to kill the Sylveon. So I think that freaking Skin Ribbons over there, definitely not an answer to the crazy ass Pyroar. And another Moxie boost basically gets us to the point where, yeah, nothing in the damn world is stopping this lion from killing stuff. So as they now bring in the Haydunn, Homegirl has no business fighting against this damn thing, which is great for me. But just looking at it, I have +5 to my physical attack, and a Terra Blast would surely destroy it. So they decide to head out, and Pyroar is just forcing forfeits out here like never before. So that is going to take care of it. I want to give a huge shout out to the commenter that put this on like every video for the past 4 months to make this happen. If you have ideas on a set that you really want to see, I'll probably eventually use it with a little bit of tweaks. So, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate all the support. You guys are amazing, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.